If you've been feeling like you're watching your own life from behind glass, like everyone around you is speaking a language you suddenly don't understand anymore, you're not broken. You're not depressed. You're not losing your mind. What's happening to you right now is one of the most profound signs that your entire existence is about to shift in ways you can't even imagine yet. That growing distance you feel from everyone, even the people you love most, isn't pushing you away from your life. It's pulling you toward who you're meant to become. Right now, as you're listening to this, something inside you probably recognized those words before I even finished saying them. That recognition, that quiet knowing that someone finally gets what you've been experiencing. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. You found this message because you're standing at the edge of something most people will never understand. And the isolation you've been feeling isn't punishment. It's preparation. Think about the last few weeks, or maybe even months. Have you noticed how conversations feel different now? How the things that used to matter to your friends suddenly feel shallow, almost foreign? You sit there nodding along, but inside you're thinking about completely different things. The jokes don't land the same way. The complaints feel exhausting. Even the celebrations feel hollow somehow. It's like everyone is still living in a world you've quietly started to outgrow, but nobody noticed you left. This isn't about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's not about judgment or superiority. It's about frequency. Your internal radio has been slowly tuning to a different station, and now the old channels are coming through fuzzy and unclear. What used to feel like connection now feels like you're trying to have a meaningful conversation through static. The people haven't changed. The words are the same, but something fundamental in how you receive and process everything has shifted. You might have started canceling plans more often, not because you don't care about people, but because sitting in those spaces feels like wearing clothes that don't fit anymore. You love these people, but being around them drains you in ways it never used to. You leave gatherings feeling more alone than when you arrived. You catch yourself checking your phone during conversations, not out of rudeness, but because your mind is somewhere else entirely, processing thoughts and ideas that feel too big or too different to share. And here's what makes it even more confusing. The distance isn't just with other people. It's with yourself too. The person you were 6 months ago feels like a stranger. The things you used to want don't excite you anymore. Goals that once felt important now feel empty. Hobbies that used to bring you joy feel like going through the motions. It's like you're mourning a version of yourself that's still alive, but somehow doesn't feel like you anymore. Your family might be asking if you're okay more often. Friends might comment that you seem distant or different. Some people might even get frustrated with you, saying you've changed, that you're not as fun as you used to be, and part of you wonders if they're right. Part of you misses the simplicity of caring about the same things everyone else cares about. Part of you wishes you could go back to finding satisfaction in the conversations and activities that used to fill your time. But here's the truth they don't teach you about transformation. Real change, the kind that actually matters, doesn't happen while you're surrounded by the familiar. It happens in the quiet spaces between who you were and who you're becoming. The universe has to pull you away from the noise so you can hear the whispers of what's trying to emerge. That distance everyone is commenting on, that's not isolation. That's incubation. Think about how a butterfly develops. Before it can fly, it has completely to dissolve inside the cocoon. For a period of time, it's neither caterpillar nor butterfly. It's something in between, something unrecognizable even to itself. If you could peek inside that cocoon during the transformation, you wouldn't see anything that looked like either creature. You'd see something that looked like it was falling apart. But that falling apart is actually the most important part of the entire process. That's where you are right now. You're in the dissolution phase. The old patterns, the old interests, the old ways of connecting with people, they're all breaking down to make room for something completely new. And just like the butterfly, you can't skip this part. You can't rush back to the familiar just because the in-between feels uncomfortable. The discomfort is doing the work. Your energy is reorganizing itself at a cellular level. Your priorities are shifting without your conscious permission. Your tolerance for surface-level interactions is dropping because your system is preparing for much deeper connections. The small talk that used to feel normal now feels like a waste of the limited energy you have for genuine human connection. You're not becoming antisocial. You're becoming selective in a way you've never been before. This is why you might find yourself drawn to spending more time alone lately. Not lonely alone, but purposeful alone. You crave silence in ways that surprise you. You want space to think thoughts that don't have to be explained or justified to anyone else. You want permission to sit with ideas that are still forming, to explore feelings that don't have names yet. Solitude has become sacred instead of something to avoid. And in those quiet moments, when you're not trying to fit into conversations that don't match your frequency anymore, something interesting starts happening. You begin hearing yourself more clearly. Thoughts that have been trying to surface for months finally have room to breathe. Creative ideas that were buried under social obligations start to emerge. Intuitive hits about your future start dropping in more frequently. The distance from everyone else is actually creating closeness with yourself. For maybe the first time in years, you're getting to know who you are when you're not performing for other people, when you're not adjusting your personality to make others comfortable, when you're not shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed for who you're becoming. But this phase is tricky because it can feel like loss when it's actually preparation for gain. It can feel like something is wrong when everything is actually going exactly as it should. The people around you might interpret your need for space as rejection. They might take your thoughtfulness as moodiness. They might mistake your evolution for depression. And sometimes, their reactions make you question whether what you're experiencing is healthy or not. Here's what I want you to understand. When you're changing at the core level, when you're literally becoming a different person from the inside out, the relationships and situations that were built around your old self have to be examined. Some will adapt and grow with you. Others will naturally fade away, not because there's anything wrong with them, but because they were connected to a version of you that no longer exists. This isn't cruel. It's not personal. It's simply how transformation works. You can't take everything from your old life into your new one. Some connections were meant to be temporary teachers. Some experiences were meant to be bridges, not destinations. And right now, you're walking across one of those bridges, looking back at where you came from, while sensing something completely different waiting ahead. The feeling distant phase doesn't last forever, but it serves a crucial purpose. It's clearing space in your life for connections that will actually nourish who you're becoming instead of who you used to be. The tricky part about this transformation is that it doesn't announce itself with fanfare. There's no manual that drops into your lap explaining why you suddenly feel like an alien in your own life. Instead, it creeps in quietly through small moments that accumulate over time until one day you wake up and realize you're living in a completely different emotional landscape than everyone around you. You might notice it first in how you respond to drama, where you used to get pulled into every conflict, every piece of gossip, every emotional crisis that your friends brought to you. Now you find yourself stepping back mentally, not because you don't care, but because engaging feels like trying to swim upstream in energy that doesn't match yours anymore. The urgency that other people feel about situations that used to consume you now feels almost foreign, like watching people panic about a movie you know isn't real. Your tolerance for negativity drops dramatically during this phase. Conversations that revolve around complaining, judging others, or rehashing the same problems over and over again start to feel physically draining. You catch yourself wanting to redirect discussions toward solutions or deeper topics, but when you try, you're met with blank stares or resistance. People want to vent, and you want to heal. People want to analyze what's wrong, and you want to explore what's possible. The mismatch becomes obvious pretty quickly. This is when you realize that the distance isn't something you're consciously creating. It's something that's naturally occurring, as your internal compass recalibrates. Your energy system is becoming more sensitive, more selective about what it allows in. Think of it like developing a refined palate. Foods that used to satisfy you now taste bland or even unpalatable. It's not that there's anything wrong with those foods. Your taste has simply evolved to crave more complex, nourishing flavors. The same thing happens with conversations, activities, and even entertainment. Movies that used to hold your attention feel shallow. Music that used to move you feels empty. Social media becomes almost unbearable because the constant stream of surface-level content feels like noise, interfering with the deeper frequencies you're starting to tune into. You find yourself scrolling less, watching less, consuming less of everything that doesn't contribute to your inner growth. And here's where it gets really interesting. As you pull back from the external noise, your inner world becomes incredibly rich. Dreams become more vivid and meaningful. Intuitive hits start coming more frequently and with more accuracy. You begin noticing synchronicities everywhere, like the universe is speaking to you in a language you're finally learning to understand. Ideas for creative projects drop in seemingly out of nowhere. Solutions to problems you've been carrying for years suddenly become clear. This is because the mental and emotional space that was previously occupied by other people's energy, other people's problems, and other people's opinions is now available for your own growth. For the first time in possibly years, you have room to hear your own thoughts, feel your own feelings, and follow your own impulses without immediately filtering them through what others might think. But this newfound inner richness can make the outer world feel even more isolating. When you're having profound realizations in your quiet moments, then stepping back into regular social situations feels like trying to explain color to someone who's never seen. The depth of what you're experiencing internally doesn't translate into casual conversation, so you learn to keep more of yourself private, which others might interpret as being secretive or withdrawn. Your sleep patterns might shift during this time too. You might find yourself naturally wanting to go to bed earlier or wake up at different hours than you used to. Your body is recalibrating along with everything else, finding its natural rhythms without the influence of social expectations or obligations. You start honoring your energy levels instead of pushing through fatigue to accommodate other people's schedules. Food preferences might change as well. You could find yourself craving lighter, cleaner foods, or losing interest in things that used to be staples in your diet. Your body is becoming more sensitive to what serves it and what doesn't. This isn't about restriction or diet culture. It's about your system naturally gravitating toward what supports your new frequency. The relationships that survive this phase are the ones that can adapt to your evolution. These are usually the people who notice you're changing, but respond with curiosity rather than judgment. They might ask genuine questions about what you're going through instead of trying to pull you back to who you used to be. They give you space to explore this new version of yourself without making you feel guilty for growing. But the relationships that don't make it through this phase often reveal themselves through resistance. These are the people who consistently try to remind you of your old self, who bring up past versions of you as if they're trying to convince you to go backward. They might make comments like, "You used to be more fun," or "Remember when you used to care about this stuff." They're not necessarily bad people, but they're attached to a version of you that no longer exists, and their attachment can become a weight that holds you back from becoming who you're meant to be. The hardest part about this realization is that some of these resistant relationships might be with people you love deeply, family members who can't understand why you're changing, old friends who feel left behind by your growth, romantic partners who fell in love with your previous self and don't know how to connect with this new version. The growing people, grief of out you care about is real and valid, but it doesn't mean you should stop growing. During this distant phase, you might also notice that your relationship with time changes. Hours can pass without you realizing it when you're engaged in activities that align with your new frequency. Conversely, time might crawl when you're in situations that feel misaligned. You become more aware of how different environments and people affect your energy and sense of time. This awareness helps you make better choices about where and with whom you spend your precious hours. Your financial priorities might shift too. Things you used to spend money on without thinking twice now feel like unnecessary expenses. Meanwhile, you might find yourself investing in experiences, books, courses, or tools that support your inner development. Your relationship with material possessions becomes more intentional. You start caring less about impressing others and more about surrounding yourself with things that genuinely enhance your life and growth. This transformation affects your goals and ambitions as well. Career paths that once excited you might suddenly feel meaningless. Dreams you've been chasing for years might lose their appeal overnight. This can be terrifying because it feels like losing your sense of direction, but it's actually your internal guidance system updating to match your new frequency. Old goals fall away to make room for purposes you haven't even discovered yet. The key during this phase is learning to trust the process even when it feels uncomfortable or lonely. Your system knows what it's doing even when your mind doesn't understand the logic behind the changes. The distance you're feeling from everyone isn't permanent isolation. It's temporary separation designed to help you remember who you are when you're not influenced by everyone else's expectations and energy. So if you're in this space right now, feeling distant from everyone and everything that used to feel like home, I want you to know something important. You're not losing your mind, and you're not losing your way. You're finding it. This phase of feeling separate and different isn't the universe punishing you or life going wrong. It's life going exactly as it should for someone who's ready to step into a completely new version of themselves. The isolation you're experiencing is sacred. It's your cocoon time. And just like the butterfly, you can't rush this process or skip the uncomfortable middle part. The distance is doing something profound. It's clearing out old frequencies that no longer serve you and making space for new ones that will change everything. Trust that the people meant to be in your new life will find you when you're ready. Trust that the opportunities aligned with who you're becoming will appear at exactly the right moment. Most importantly, trust that this feeling of being separate from everyone else isn't permanent. It's preparation. You're not being left behind. You're being called forward. The next time someone asks you why you're so different lately, you'll know exactly what to tell them. You're not different. You're finally becoming who you've always been underneath all the layers of who you thought you had to be. And that person, that authentic version of you that's emerging from this distant phase, is going to create a life more beautiful than anything you could have imagined from your old frequency. The distance was never about moving away from love. It was about moving toward the right kind of love. And it's closer than you think.